All right, let's take a look at this question. So we're gotten to the point of combining Lewis structures with also this idea of molecular geometry. And this one's a tough one because we're gonna have two central atoms. Now remember, carbons like to bond to each other. So a rough sketch would be this H, and then we got to figure out how does it bond to that oxygen. So we can think of each of these carbons as its own central atom. So let's take a look here. So make these hydrogens. This one's got a hydrogen and an oxygen. Okay, so if I look at valence electrons, I see some problems. So hydrogens are all good, 2, 2, 2, 2. This carbon here is good. This one's not, it's only got 6, and the oxygen only has 2. Now we could give that 6, but we only have 2, so we could do this, right? Our formal charges aren't looking good. We do that. Typically, carbons don't like to be negative, and we got 2 negatives here, and we shouldn't have, this is not a -2 ion, so this cannot be correct. Now, what we've learned, hopefully over time, is that carbons like to have 4 bonds and oxygens like to have 2 bonds. And so the best way to do that is to do a double bond there. Now, so now if we look at our carbon, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 bonds. Oxygen has its 2 bonds, and they're both have 0 formal charge, and they have 8 valence electrons. Now, the next part is molecular geometry, right? And so a carbon with 4 bonds, remember that prefix gives you a clue. Tetrahedral means 4 bonds. Now, this is not electron geometry. We don't have any lone pairs on the central atom, so we're just looking at number of bonds. And so we know that this is going to be a trigonal. Now we learned about 2 different types of trigonal pyramidal, trigonal planar. Now, trigonal pyramidal will come when you have a lone pair pushing it down, right? So that lone pair makes it look kind of like that. Trigonal planar is when you have just 3 bonds, even if one's a double bond. So we're looking at trigonal planar here. Now remember, electron geometries versus molecular geometries. Here, they're the same, they're one and the same because we have no lone pairs on the central atom. And so we're looking at trigonal planar electron geometry and molecular geometry, and a tetrahedral electron and molecular geometry. Okay, so I'm going to choose this one. There we go.